should be up.
Okay, I got it. Yep, I can see it. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Jane Crocker, or Elizabeth Crocker, my legal name. It's called to order the meeting. And Lori, did you say Earl was or was not going to be able to attend? Oh,
That he'd be able to come.
So I'll second that order then.
Jane?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have town council with us, Tom Harrington. We
Okay.
have our town administrator with us, and we have Chief Bennett with us to discuss the face covering order. I think if you have any questions, or maybe let the chief speak first, just to give us an overview of what he's thinking.
That would be great. Thank you. I just figured out how to not get my echo, so. Chief Bennett, I welcome you to speak. Thank you.
Okay, so as everybody knows, last week, Governor Baker put into effect on the 6th mask coverings. There is, first is a verbal warning, and then it can proceed to civil citation. However, the enforcement of the civil citation can only be issued by a Board of Health agent. So Attorney John Sheft, who is legal counsel to the MPTC, which is the Municipal Police Training Council, sent out some paperwork regarding this and has recommended that under Chapter 111, Section 30, the Board of Health could appoint police officers as agents to assist the Board of Health with enforcing this code during the pandemic. I reached out to Lori after we had gotten the paperwork. In it, there is also a sample letter spelling out what the enforcement would be. I don't know if that was forwarded to all of you.
Yes, it was.
And basically, I am not looking for any more responsibility than what we already have, because we have more than enough. However, this would assist Lori, because technically, as of right now, I believe she is the only one that would be going out and enforcing this. I have no ambition to go out and write anybody a $300 ticket. However, should an incident arise where we are called to an incident where something has to take place, it leads to a point, because first off, we're going to go in, we're going to try and get voluntary compliance. That's going to be first and foremost. If we have spare masks, we'll provide the mask. The citation will be last resort. However, if we have to get to that point, in order to get to that point, we would have to call Lori out to the scene to issue the citation. And that's just not good time management. It's much more effective that if we have to take action, then we take it at that point in time and we move on from the situation. Now, anything that we would do would be governed by the Board of Health with your suggestion on how we handle just that part of it. Obviously, a criminal violation we would handle because that falls within our realm. But then within 48 hours, we have to notify the Board of Health of what action we took. So that's basically the gist of it.
I wanted to just say too that I don't think a $300 fine is appropriate either. They gave such latitude with this that I'd like you to give some thought to really what is a fine worth for not wearing a mask if a violation has to be cited. Carter and I had previously talked about it, and we have an idea that we think that $50 for a citation for something like this should be considered. Carter, I don't want to put words in your mouth either.
No, I think that the executive order, I believe, Chief, provided for a fine of up to $300. And my thought is that that was probably selected because these are being enforced as municipal violations, the non-criminal disposition, if I understand correctly. And 300 is the max for those. It would be my hope that the citizenry, recognizing this is not about protecting you yourself, it's about protecting your neighbor, it's about protecting town employees, it's about protecting the employees in the establishment you're going into, that we would have substantial voluntary compliance. My hope would then be that gentle reminders would perhaps move a substantial portion of the non-complying public along, and that it would be as a last resort that there might have to be an actual violation notice with a fine attached to it. This is a delicate balance because there are a lot of people that feel this is an infringement upon their right. So I was thinking that most of our fines, I think, Chief, in the municipal violations section are closer to the $50 limit, if I remember right, starting at $50 anyways. And my thought would be if the Board of Health were to set the first violation at $50, now we'd have a warning, polite warning, we'd have a $50 fine. And if compliance becomes a substantial problem, and if this goes on for a lengthy period of time, then the chief can report back to you and tell you, look, this is just not proving to be an incentive, and I need some additional authority here. That would be my suggestion, but I'd really like to hear the chief's reaction to that, if we might.
Please.
I totally agree, Carter, that it's up to $300. So basically, I was thinking on the same lines as you were, is that there's a starting point, whether it be $50 first violation, whether it be $100 first violation, second violation, third violation, up to $300. However, the Board of Health deems they want to enforce this fine-wise, I'm fine with. No pun intended on that.
It's pretty good, actually.
Very good, Chief.
There are a few people listening on or who are attending online, and there's a suggestion for companies or businesses that don't comply that the fine be higher, up to the 300. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Okay, go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
I was going to say, the fine goes to the individual. I don't think we were granted the authority to fine a company. So I think you're still in the same place.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And for those of you who didn't hear, Tom is the legal advisor, the attorney for the town.
With companies, it's a little more difficult too, because they have to be aware that there are some people with medical conditions that can't wear masks, and it's a fine line between who are they going to talk to, who are they going to say you got to put a mask on.
Right. Okay.
If I might ask a question, Jane?
Yep.
So Lori, is there anything in the executive order that requires, because I've been thinking about this, and Jane, I want to speak to beyond the governor's executive order at the end, if I might. But Laurie, is there anything that requires that it be a face mask? Can it not be for someone who has a breathing condition or a medical condition? One of the clear face shields, would that prove as effective? And would that be considered to be in compliance with the executive order?
It would. I mean, a clear face shield is doing the same thing that a face covering would do. It's stopping your breath, your spittle from hitting somebody else. And that's the main point of a face covering.
So that would be important for our officers and our employers to understand that it's a face covering, whether it be the mask, the cloth mask, the surgical mask, or the clear face shield. One of those two coverings, in your opinion, would meet the governor's executive order?
Yes.
And would the chief be agreeable with that as well, since he's going to be the primary out in the field enforcement agency, Jane?
Yes.
Tom, any advice for us?
Could you say that again?
Have any guidance, advice
Yeah, so let me, I'll send you some guidance that was recently issued by DPH, but I think Carter is right. This is a face covering order, not a face mask order. And in fact, the state doesn't want people, going out and buying up as many of the N95 masks as they can. Really, a bandana is fine. It's a face covering order. And as Laurie, as you were pointing out, there are exceptions to it, and there are certain individuals who are exempt. Children under 2 are exempt. Children between the ages of 2 and 5, if their parents think they're not able to wear a mask, are exempt. Let's see, hold on. Those who cannot breathe safely with a mask are exempt. Those with a behavior diagnosis that precludes the use of a mask are exempt. And those communicating with persons who rely on lip reading are exempt. And I guess I'd also add that, so the order really is ultimately, you have to wear a mask if you can't keep a 6-foot safe distance. So when we look at, the essential businesses that are open, you do have to wear a mask unless you're exempt. If you're in a grocery store, a retail store, or a pharmacy, and businesses may decline entry to individuals for refusal to wear face coverings for non-medical reasons. So just adding a little bit of further detail.
Thank you. Also, another question is, how can we make employees at these businesses, since the businesses can't be fined, aware that they would be responsible if they're not wearing face covering?
So the employees face coverings?
The employee, that they would be responsible for the fine, Laurie.
Okay. Is it a specific, are they talking about a specific employee type situation? I've been to like Cumberland Farms and the Dunkin' Donuts, and I sat out in Lee's parking lot last week when they opened. Everybody seems to be wearing masks at the moment. If an employee is not wearing a mask, it's up to the employer to make sure that they're following whatever edict they've set forth.
I'm asking that question to them.
Most of our businesses have also put up plexiglass which in essence is shielding.
Someone's referring to Hootala gas.
Hoodala, okay. That's a really good question, and I'll have to look into it. But if they're coming within 6 feet of customers or another employee, they should be wearing a face covering.
Okay.
Mhm.
If I may,
Please.
I spoke to Lori earlier, and during regular business hours, this would be this would be within her realm to handle, going to the businesses and stuff like that. What we're looking for is only outside of normal business hours that we would have to, enforce this and not have to call Lori at home to drive out to do something like this. Because we're not looking to take any authority from the Board of Health at all. So
Right.
just wanted that clear.
Thank you.
It's also a case of the chief and his department are not going to go looking for violations. It's through the course of normal work that things will be addressed, unless there's some gathering of, more than 10 people and there's an issue and they get called out for it. I mean, it's not going looking for problems.
Jane, if I might,
Yes.
Chief, I understand what you're saying. Here's my concern, and maybe we can sort out how to address this. I believe the delegation of authority to enforce would have to be 24/7. Now, I'm not suggesting that if somebody calls town hall and says, hey, I just bought gas and it was pumped for me, and the guy wasn't wearing a face cover, that Lori should toss that to you if it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That would be a call to town hall during normal business hours, and she would go and have that conversation. But let's say that a police officer went to Cumberland Farms to get a coffee at 1 p.m. During what Monday through Thursday might be normally Lori's hours. I would want the officer to have the authority to say, hey, look, you need to do this, and have that enforcement authority. So is it possible, is it workable that you're delegated 24/7, but you have an internal working understanding with Lori of, hey, if they call you during your normal business hours and it's about a business, a practice of the business, that's kind of your ball to catch and go talk with the business owner. And I'll take the other stuff when my folks happen to come across things through the virtue of their normal work and outside your normal business hours. Is it possible to sort of have you fully delegated, but have this kind of working understanding between you and Lori that codifies what you're saying?
Well, yeah, absolutely, Carter. That's what I was saying. Is that,
Okay.
we obviously we would be able to enforce it 24 hours a day.
Right.
I was saying that we wouldn't be going out of our way to step on the Board of Health's toes and doing their job. Obviously, if we came across it in our normal daily business or routine, then we, like I had stated, we would address it, how the Board of Health decides to move forward on this with enforcement, and then notify the Board of Health within 48 hours of our actions.
Gotcha. Might I ask Lori a question, Jane?
Yes, please.
Do you think that all of our businesses in town widely understand this and have communicated this to their employees? Is my first question.
That's a really good question, and I think for the most part, our businesses have communicated to their employees, and looking at the food businesses being the majority of our business, most of them are closed just to do takeout. So I need to make the rounds and go and just make sure that everybody is comfortable with what this is about. I have emailed all of those businesses.
If we can get you the resources, how long would it take us to prepare a simple 8.5 by 11 notice they could post and put it in the mail to our list of businesses in town? Just as another, not only to, remind them, but just sort of as a pro-business keeping, because we're there, we want our businesses to succeed to the extent possible, while we want our citizenry safest as possible, while minimizing the enforcement requirements as much as possible, because you and the chief and his officers certainly have more than enough to do. How long would it take if we could get you some resources to do that?
We can get it done in a day. That's an easy fix.
So some sort of flyer that just briefly says what has to be done and how it's being enforced, and asking them to post it for their employees might be something the board might want to consider asking for, Jane.
Yes, I agree. Sorry, I can't keep my phone from not ringing. I would make a motion that, first, thank you, Chief Bennett, for okay, someone asked if we had email that we could send them. I think what you're talking about, Carter, though, is something that they can post, a piece of paper they can post at the business, correct?
For their employees, yes.
For the
It's sort of
employees.
it's
Yep.
a reminder of just, remember, here's the governor's executive order. Here's where you can go read it at length. Maybe it even talks about the different, like Tom said, the coverings. So we're talking
Yes.
about a shield, and then ask them to post it for their employees.
Yes,
we
I
can
think that's a great idea.
We could
And-
post that on the website as well.
That would be great. So I would make a motion that we have that notice for businesses that could go out and to help them so that they know what they have to do as well. I guess Laura should unmute herself and second that maybe.
I will second that. Sorry, I was unmuting myself.
Thank you. Okay, that's good. And then Chief Bennett, thank you for what you can do for us. From what I believe it was from you, you need to have this in writing that we're asking you to do this?
That is correct.
Correct, okay. So Lori, if I believe I like the $50, the warning first, the $50. So I would make a motion that we do that to enforce
second
this
that.
as well. And Lori will get that in writing to Chief Bennett.
So in the packet, there's an actual letter template.
Yes,
Do you want me to follow that template for you to give the authority to the police department?
yes. I have that. I have the template.
You should.
Yes, I do have it.
Okay.
Yep, in front of me.
So
So
if you,
that could be done.
okay, so you're gonna want to make a motion to use that.
Okay, I would make a motion that we use that template to help us involve or to put the police department on board with the Board of Health and making them governing agents as well.
And I will second that.
Then it was asked on the live stream if we could notify the employees that they are responsible for what they're responsible on the form, that they also have to supply the masks for their employees.
I'll actually have to look
And
into it.
Okay, and that the employees would be, that they would be, I guess, that they would be able to be fined if they're not following the rules. I think that's what they're asking.
Okay, so we'll look into that.
Okay,
make sure that we understand how an employee can be fined also.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions.
Jane, if you're done with the governor's executive order enforcement and the means in which you've set the fines, if you will, and involve the chief, I did have an additional question or two, if I might, while I have you.
Okay, that's,
Just one thing. I
yeah.
think you moved, but I don't think you took the vote.
Oh, okay, yes, all in favor. There's two of us here, so it was only, thank you, Tom, for pointing that out. So all in favor of those two, Laura?
Aye.
Aye, myself, so. Did you say something else, Tom? I saw your mouth moving, but I'm not sure if I'm on the.
Nope, that was
Slack.
it.
Okay,
That was it.
okay, thank you. Okay, Carter, go ahead.
Let me start first with a question to Laurie. Do we have any sense of how long this executive order is going to be maintained in place?
I expect we'll be hearing more from the governor this week. I know he's probably not going to wait till the 18th to talk about what's going on. Honestly, I think he'll probably extend. That's just my opinion. It's not anything I've heard. He's being very cautious. So my guess is it will be extended.
That's also my guess and hope, working in a dental field. So not the safest field right now.
But I will note that the chief has not been hurt whatsoever by the ban on barbers being open.
On what being open?
Barbers.
The barber, oh. That wasn't very nice, Carter. No.
No, I wish I was in his situation at this point.
Okay. I had to cut my mother's hair, so I get it.
There we go. There we go. So Jane, here's I guess leading into my question. We are Lori, Bob Sosik, on the staff, looking at all of our facilities as to what we need to do in order to reopen to the public, keep our employees safe, have our employees keep the public safe, and the public keep our employees safe, vice versa. In some offices, we are able to put up full glass with speak holes that'll be screened and some of the kinds of things. In others, we're really not physically able to do it. We might be able to in the long term. Bob Sosik will look at creating service counters of the type that maybe we should have had from the beginning. And we don't have a lot of space in some of these areas. Our concern for our employees will most likely extend beyond the governor's executive order. So one of the things that we're looking at is that all of our employees must wear a face mask or shield that we can enforce. But we are giving serious consideration to a requirement that anyone entering the facility wear a face covering, as Tom puts it. Without knowing how long the governor's order might continue, what authority, if any, should it be deemed necessary by the employees and the Board of Health, given the limited amount of space that we have in a number of our facilities, and, for instance, in the library, virtually no ability to screen or partition the patron from the staff, to continue the requirement that persons entering the town buildings need to have a face covering of some fashion.
I know I certainly don't have a problem with that. I don't know what the laws are. Maybe Tom has something he can add to that.
Tom, you're muted.
You're muted. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I think town hall is covered by the essential businesses order, and people inside of town hall coming in to do business need to be wearing a mask or be exempt therefrom.
Does the Board of Health, let's say that the governor's order expired on, let me say, just, Memorial Day.
Mhm.
Given the confined space in there, and then I have some facilities, the library, for instance, where I really can't put a physical shield between the patron and the staff. And we're not going to be able to do that in all locations in town hall either. Does the Board of Health have the authority to adopt a local, albeit might be short-term or interim, similar rule that would require folks entering town facilities to wear a face covering? Or would that be above and beyond any authority they might have?
No,
Should it be deemed warranted?
I think they would have that authority under Chapter 111, Section 104.
So Jane, I would say that at this point, we have no intention of asking you for that. We certainly hope that the governor's order extends to a point in time when both our staff and our customers, clients, patrons, however each unit refers to them, are safe and comfortable.
Right, okay. But in the future, if we feel that you need to do that, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all.
We'll approach you should we feel that that becomes necessary
Necessary.
on
Okay.
staff feedback.
Great.
We're gonna do our best to, in some cases, I say we can actually physically isolate them. In others, Board of Assessors, town clerk, quite frankly, we're only gonna be able to let one person in there at a time because of that narrowness of that hallway there, that workway area, where we just can't get folks that close. So we'll keep you posted and ask the general public to understand as we go to implement these safety measures for their long-term health.
Great. Is there anything else that anybody needs to speak about? Or would like to? I don't know what did you say, Lori?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I believe we can adjourn this meeting and we're all set. If we have a motion to do that,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
okay. And Lori just said something else too, so I don't know what you said. And I would second that, so I believe we're all in favor to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your participation and your great questions and
Thank
answers.
you.
Thank you. Have a